Hello there. Welcome to episode 18 of Bow and Blade, a podcast. 18. We're getting old. Podcast brought to you by medievalist.net, your home for all things medieval on the internet. Bow and Blade gives you a seat at the bar as scholars of medieval warfare go beyond the Wikipedia articles to talk about the debates and questions that we're working on today. I'm Michael Livingston, professor at the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina.
And I'm Kelly DeVries, professor of history at Loyola University in Maryland. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing well. Y'all just hear us. Kelly and I can see each other.
Right.
And every time I say I start a show, Kelly kind of laughs at me when I say hello there, and then I have to try and keep it cool because Kelly's grinning at me. I don't know what's going on.
No, good greeting there. I mean, hello there.
Hello there.
Yeah, I mean, could have said, something. Aloha.
Aloha. Howdy.
I don't know whether there's the Citadel greeting. Huzzah.
Not that we can do in public.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
What are you drinking tonight, man?
Oh, hey, this one's an easy one. I've fallen in love with Portuguese Reds. You know this. And we're talking about Siege of Lisbon. I love Portugal. And I'm going with the Portuguese Red right now. Big glass.
Just a general Portuguese Red? Are we doing some port?
No, I'm not. Maybe have a port chaser.
Okay.
Sweet.
Okay.
I'll stick with the really gut wrenching Stones and Bones, that sort of thing.
Stones good bottle. Bones, good bottle, Stones and Bones. By the way, if anyone from Stones and Bones is listening right now, we would not mind receiving a case or two or three or more. And we would again say how much we enjoy your wine.
Yeah, exactly right.
I'm drinking a Madeira wine.
Of course, yeah.
Because which is another Portuguese red. Obviously not particularly, in Lisbon, but no. It's also lyric in a great song by Mark Knopfler called Privateering.
Yes.
So I'm going to have my drink Madeira wine.
Madeira. We'll have to have a port at the end. Dessert wine for the end. That's it.
We're doing Siege of Lisbon today, which is all kinds of good fun. Now before we get into that, I have to send a shout out to one of you all who is listening. I don't know if I should say the name because I don't know if I
didn't give us permission. So
I'll say this. One of our listeners, I got an email today. A graduate student in Istanbul wrote and said, "Hey, guess what? There are some chronicles that reference the Siege of Rhodes. They're about the Siege of Rhodes that have not been translated. Yeah. There are some out there, some Ottoman chronicles. So we're going to start tracking those things down.
Yeah, track them down. I'm sure the Google Translate will help us. I don't think that'll be a problem. Ottoman Turkish, I understand, is like the most difficult language to understand late Middle Ages.
I was going to say it's all Greek to me, but I think that probably doesn't work. We're gonna see if we can track down some more information on this. This is one of the things that is awesome about something like this, right? Like Kelly and I can talk to each other, we can talk to other people we know, but we can only reach so far through our networks. Whereas through this podcast, we're able to reach a lot of people that we wouldn't otherwise come across, right? Who might have information that, God, we want that information. We don't know it exists. And here, somebody's, hey, there's this stuff. It's the sweetest email too. It's so nice. It's like, I enjoyed the podcast you did. I'm a graduate student working on this stuff. Here's some stuff you may find helpful or of interest. And I'm like, what? Yahtzee. So yeah, we're going to look into that. I'm also going to see if I can, the email just came in. So I wasn't able to check, but hopefully we can give him a shout. So, and this was such a sweet email. He was very, very kind, very generous. So thank you, unnamed person, because I don't know if we can say your name on the internets, but thank you. And look, this goes for anybody out there listening. If we say something like, yeah, but did you know about? Hey, send it to us. We'll be happy, thrilled probably, to see the information that you have that we don't have, and we'll be happier for it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So anyway, so we're doing the Siege of Lisbon today, which a good 12th century. It sits us right in the middle of the Second Crusade, which is one of the most successful.
Yeah, right.
No, that's not right. I have that.
You know the old term "foobar" from World War II.
Foobar,
Yeah,
yes,
fucked up
yes.
beyond all recognition.
It's a family show.
Yeah, it is. Farked up. What they use on the old Battlestar Galactica.
It's yeah.
It is foobar. If you look at foobar in any dictionary, it says "see Second Crusade."
Yeah, see the Second Crusade. This was the sequel did not go as good as the initial the initial release.
No, I mean, even though they had two kings, they had the Holy Roman Emperor Conrad III, they had Louis VII, both go over, and as soon as they get Jerusalem, they start arguing with the resident Crusaders. Oh, no, let's go. I mean, the whole prompting of the Second Crusade, after all, is the loss of Edessa, which is an incredibly weak Crusader kingdom. I mean, very weak. It's not got natural defenses, and it doesn't have a huge garrison. So Zengi, as Seljuk Turk lord from Aleppo, goes up there and easily takes it over, and that's what prompts the whole crusade. But
and that was in 1144, the fall of Edessa, and the Pope Eugene III. I don't know why I disrespect Eugene somehow just because his name is Pope Eugene. It just doesn't sound
Eugenius.
I don't know.
Eugenius. We would give him that, but
Eugenius. All right, fine.
Well, and see, Bernardo Clairvaux also is big on this crusade. He puts out, he puts out all sorts of things and writes about how good the Knights Templar are, and all that. Surprisingly, not brought up in their trial later on. But anyway, Bernardo Clairvaux was pushing it and so forth. But they get over there, and the resident Crusaders say, "Okay, let's go up to Aleppo and take out Zengi." And they said, "Well, why not Damascus? It's closer." And they're trying to explain to him, "Well, but the Damascene leader, he's our man, he's our buddy."
Yeah.
And so Louis and Conrad can't be bothered with that. They go for an attack Damascus, and so the people throw that leader out and welcome Zengi in. I mean, if you can actually lose the biggest city in your region that's Muslim, that was an ally to you, to your enemy, never shedding any of their blood.
It is
foobar.
Amazing, like truly, like wow.
Yeah,
you couldn't have done anything worse. But
except for one little group,
one little group who like screw up in a sense. I shouldn't say they screw up, but they don't go where they're supposed to go. They don't follow orders. They go off and do their own thing, and they have success. And that's the Siege of Lisbon, which has no business happening.
Giving the benefit of the doubt, this is a group of Anglo and Fleming, Anglo-Flemish crusaders, some from northern Germany, who sail out of the English Channel and down the coast of France and then the Iberia. They're stopping off,
and they're on their way.
That's all they're doing in northern Spain, stopping off for water.
Yeah, they're on their way. Yeah. Like this is they're doing like the thing. Yeah. They're heading to the Holy Land. Now, as Kelly said, they're stopping in for water and for supplies, like to get out of the way of storms, whatever. You're coastal bouncing, as these kind of things tend to do. And they coastal bounce into into Porto. Yeah. And while they're there, nice place, by the way. It's good. Anybody from Porto wants to send us some stuff, we'll drink it too. They're convinced not to go to the Holy Land. Let's do something here.
Yeah. They do have the King of Portugal, Afonso Henrique shows up and says, "Can you give me a hand here?" They're on the way to the Holy Land. They don't know what's happening in the Holy Land. There's no question that
Yeah.
they don't know. And he says, how about go stopping over? You got a big leap to get into the Mediterranean and back around France to get on shore. So why don't we stop off on the coast of Portugal? And there may be a few Muslims around.
Yeah. Well, look, Moorish, the Iberian Peninsula, right, is largely Moorish, at the and yeah, this kind of like it's almost like just preying on people's laziness, right? Look, you want to go all that way, dude. There's people right
Yeah, yeah,
here.
yeah.
Like, let's just go right
I
here.
don't know
This
that
is
it's
easy.
preying on their laziness. I think it was preying on their zeal. And he's got the same
On
zeal.
their
Yeah, I
zealousness.
think he's
Yeah.
got the same zeal. We don't have, I mean, Kingdom of Portugal is just one of the kingdoms, but sometimes barely hanging on. We really haven't gotten a lot of Reconquista out on that direction. But
Yeah.
so I think he is. I think he comes in and says, you guys are all Christians and all holy people. Look, you got crosses on you. I got a nice stopover for you.
Right. Just down the
Just down the
coast.
coast. Small little place.
Just
Small
just
as
down the
as
coast.
you know,
Small.
minimum number of people. Yeah, it's probably the largest city
Uh,
on that part of the Iberian Peninsula. Uh,
I think without question it is. I mean, what the contemporary report, right, is what
yeah,
150,000 people in
yeah.
the city, something like
He,
that.
he seems not to have
Uh,
told the Crusaders that.
and that they're of all faiths and are all getting along pretty much just fine.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
that too. Like, yeah, but
Well, I love the fact that the author of the account that we all use because it's a really thorough account. Probably in Yeah,
eyewitness account.
eyewitness account. There, I mean, there's a couple. There's a letter also that's really brilliant, but and they both seem to be written by the Anglo Flemings, or in this
Yeah,
case, it's a monk by the name of Rao. And if you're gonna have a monk, you got to name him Rao. I think
that's a good
that's a
name.
good name. And but Rao, he writes very angrily about the fact that there's a freedom of religion. It's really kind of damn people are getting along. Uh, how dare they do that? I mean, what are gods going to do if they can't get in a boxing ring with each other? Come
You're
on.
you're 100% right. It is kind of a weird, sad thing,
Yeah.
right? Is we kind of view that as like, look how nice everybody's getting along. That's amazing. And yeah, he's like, look how horrible that is. Everybody's getting
Everybody's getting along.
along.
They're all different religions,
uh,
and this seems to be the case. I mean, there were a large number of Jews in the city, and Christians have been allowed to practice their worship. In fact, it was much less strict in Lisbon than it was in other parts of Islamic controlled former Christianity, where they were limited as to what they practiced. As far as we could tell, synagogues and Christian churches and mosques were all open, people going around knowing each other's neighbor and everything, and not really hating each other. Geez, how can that happen?
Go figure. And it is wealthy. It is wealthy. Lisbon is loaded at this point, and much of this is due to its location. Really, Lisbon is a very old city. Goes way
Yeah,
back
yeah,
because it's such a fantastic location. Right on the Atlantic. Not I don't want to imply that's like next to Gibraltar, but it's
yeah,
down towards the opening of the Mediterranean, but on a major artery of river that has a very nicely sheltered bay harbor. It's really ideal for merchant
yeah,
vessels
yeah.
and for trade.
Yeah, a natural harbor, as natural as one could have there in that region, and yeah, the merchants were coming in. I've kind of wondered about this. We have we. I'm getting older. Economics mean a lot to me, more than ideology in this case, unless you're Rao. No, stop getting along. But you kind of wonder if that prosperity didn't bring a little bit of satisfaction enough that there wasn't disturbances in there. Clearly, Afonso doesn't have it. I mean,
Yeah,
he wants that, and no doubt he wants the wealth too. And when you've got a whole bunch of crusaders at hand, you're not going to point out that don't go rough anybody up. They're living well. Just put me in place. It doesn't really happen that way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I kind of wonder if that a little bit because Rao gives us this notion of the fortifications around Lisbon, and Lisbon is built very much like many of these ancient cities of this period were, which is a citadel on top of a high mountain in the middle, and then the town pretty much around it
Yeah.
below, and then walls around that town. Um, and we get great description about the fortifications, but they seem to be pretty easily defeated. At least the town walls.
The town walls. Yeah. I mean, the Citadel's not.
Citadel's not, but I mean it's way up.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And the Citadel's still
yeah,
there. So if anybody wants to take a trip to Portugal, bring us.
yeah.
But also, it's right. It's right there. It's the Castle Saint
Hmm.
George.
Not at the time.
And yeah, not San Jorge,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Castello de San Jorge, and it's beautiful. It's
It's beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah. And they've done some good
You
excavations. They know where that this is, was previously an Islamic fortress. It was probably well, we know the Romans had it fortified, so it's probably the Carthaginians before them, and who knows what they might find when they finally do all the excavations. But it's steep.
man,
I've walked it both up and down, and I've also taken the tram up. It's fun to kind of take the tram up and come down, but I'm still really fearful about certain things like the laws of gravity because that tram seems to be just hanging on. I'm thinking, okay, I'm
just
not
getting there.
shifting my weight because right now it seems all good, but if I was to go back,
Yeah,
it's going to flip over and go down the hill.
yeah. I've not been there. You are definitely ahead of me on this one. I've
Oh, this
I've
was one of
not
my
been there.
favorite places. I wouldn't have liked to be there during the siege, but it was one of my favorite
No.
places. And it seems to have been pretty good. But I do wonder, this isn't a siege. I mean, we're talking about this as an active siege. We've done siege of Orleans. We've done the siege of Rhodes, both of them. And those are active sieges too. I mean, it's kind of boring. We haven't done Calais yet because they sit around for a long time around there.
Yeah.
Tournai, they sit
Yeah.
around for a long time. This is one where the Crusaders are on their way. This is a stopover. They really are desirous of getting onto the Holy Land. Doing a little bit of doing a broa turn there with Alfonso. You know, which is coming,
Doing a broa
doing a broa
turn.
turn. You know,
Welcome to Bone Blade,
that's
everybody.
right,
Hello there.
right. um, I do kind of wonder about that because it certainly it seems that he appeals to their, well, like I said, I think he appeals to their religious nature and so forth. So
Yeah.
it doesn't seem to promise them wealth. I mean, he's willing to take it all himself at the end of the day. Alfonso is and say, "Okay, thanks much.
There's
Get on. See you later. Have fun storming
yeah, and
the
there's
Holy
not
Land."
really yeah, we have no record of much debate either. It's like there was a speech, a sermon's given with this kind of as its point, and that's it. So yeah, that would definitely speak to your kind of relying on their zealotry to make this
And
happen.
and although they must also have been bored, and I think that's getting to the laziness. You're going in for action, and you're on a ship, and these are all soldiers.
Yeah,
They're not used to being on a ship, not for that
ships
long.
are not. They're not
No, they're
comfortable.
not
It's
comfortable.
not.
I mean, half of them are probably seasick. They
Yeah,
need to stop every once in a while for supplies and especially fresh water. They're on a number of ships. I mean, it's a fleet, but it's still, and and they're all men. So at a certain moment in time, they probably also got a few preachers that stay up in the early morning and give them all
and
hell and damn fire. So,
yeah, I mean, I've got to think this is. I haven't measured it out. I probably should have. That they're about a third probably of the way to the Holy
yeah,
Land when this
yeah,
happened, maybe a quarter of the way. So yeah, they've got a long way to go. So the chance of like, well, instead you
yeah,
could just
yeah.
stop here, sounds pretty good. And on the 1st of July, they stop in Lisbon, and they get this party started.
Yeah. Here's
Uh,
where I really
yeah,
wish we had a source from inside the walls. because the two sources we have, Raoul and Letter, Anonymous Letter, is both of them say it seems to really surprise the people. Um,
Yeah.
and you could do that. I think that you could do that with Lisbon because you're on to the city. I mean, once you turn around there, if you can't, if they haven't been spotted and nobody's really cared, come right up into the Tagus River, and boom, you're there. And I think it
Yeah.
must have been a bit startling to have all these ships appear with armed men on them. And I don't think Lisbon had really even been attacked much, and really not even had any dissatisfaction, uprisings, or anything they had to contend with before. So
Well, it certainly fits with the idea of, I mean, they might have known that there was a fleet,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
They would have known word, but like these guys are heading to the Holy Land. That's what they're doing. Like
yeah.
it's not about us,
Yeah, I love that.
and they
I love,
they stop in, and it's about
that's
you.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is about you. It's about you and protection. That you're not trained. This is a city. I don't. It undoubtedly has a militia, but if they're not really taking part in much activity, and it doesn't seem to be much over in that part of the world, then they're not very well trained. At least they're going to be sitting on the walls, hoping they hold. No question about it. So, yeah, I think that's really. I love war games on when the Crusades, because there's big sails with the big red crosses of them and everything. Oh, geez, look at that. I guess he's a
Right.
Crusader. He sure hasn't. No, no, that's not what these fleets would have been.
Well, and I mean, there had been, so 5 years earlier, we think there was an aborted attempt to take Lisbon, that is actually referred to having happened previously, in this one main eyewitness text that Kelly's talking about. It does refer to there having been 5 years, I think, earlier, um, an attempted reconquista, attempted reconquest of this place, by Afonso. That was unsuccessful. They didn't get anything. I think they burned the outskirts of town or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that and
So
left.
suburbs. That's what they're used for.
Um, yeah, yeah. So I mean, there's a I mean, like
So yeah,
Lisbon's a it's a rich place, but yeah, there's no indication they're expecting this lot to do anything, especially not to do what they did, which is to kind of dismount, enforce,
yeah.
and immediately start trying to take the place.
And not just sit outside and let it starve to death. I mean, this was an active attack on the walls. This I, I'm if a if I had to talk about a siege, the word trebuchets seem to have played a lot of role on it. And but they're all trebuchets and siege towers. I mean, at one point, doesn't Drow say they get within like the length of a rod between the city walls and them, so that it doesn't take much uh, to at least get next to the walls. That's always a difficulty. If
Yeah,
you've got a moat, you've got to fill it, you've got to do all these other things. But they seem to have done it really quite quickly.
and for those of you who are interested in this particular source, um, I swear we don't choose our subjects based on this fact. But that account, we have that translation of much of that account in our medieval warfare book, in Medieval Warfare Reader, pages starting on page 213. I just looked down and saw it. There you go. It's in there. We don't have the whole thing, but uh, we got the
Yeah,
juicy bits. Got the juicy bits.
and it's a great
Um,
source for military history. It only really talks about this siege and the whole thing. I mean, conquest of Lisbon.
yeah, and so this is you have the town. You have the citadel within the town on top of a hill. And within the citadel, there's almost even a more internal fortification to that. So this is we need to fight through all this, and the citadel in particular is very difficult to take. Very difficult to take. This takes ultimately 4 months? Is
Hmm.
that right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
about 4 months. None of that is why I think this is a cool siege.
No, I mean, there, I think the whole story leading up to it is great context, first of all.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But tell me why you think what you think makes this a cool siege.
The best thing about this is the letters
Yes.
that are found. So so tell us about the letters, Kelly.
Well, I mean, they keep seeming to. Well, okay, let's step back one and talk about. If you're being besieged, those inside the town are going to try to get communications out, and
Right.
we hear about it almost other places, but mostly we hear about it when these letters are captured, and this is what happens. And so every time that it looks like it seems, and this may be a little bit of literary, you know, flourish. I don't know, but every time it seems that the Crusaders are starting to get a little bit down on their achievements, or they start disputing. I mean, Raoul hates the Germans. There's no question. It's kind of funny because one of the other sources is a letter written by a German who seems to really hate the Anglo-Flemings. The Anglo-Flemings are, and it's kind of like, if we stop with Lisbon for a moment, we might actually punch each other's. I mean, there are some
Right.
fights, and then all of a sudden the letter shows up and says, we're really hurting in here. Uh, and we're starting to get hungry, and we're starting to our face failing, and the walls are. It's almost always something that they can take the Crusaders and say, look, man, they're on the verge, and that seems to
Yeah. Yeah, we got them on the
that's
ropes.
it.
Yeah, so this is from that source. This is one of them, where the chronicler says, "Look, these letters were found. There was a 10 Moors. It calls these the enemy Moors here. Entered a skiff and rowed away in the direction of their castle, but we chased them, and we caught them, and there were letters, and one of them was like this. Okay, and then he gives, here's, I got this from an interpreter, and I love that he's
Yeah,
got like,
yeah, yeah.
here's an example, got it from an interpreter. This is what it says, um, and so this is from the unfortunate people of
Yes,
Lisbon.
yes.
What great and terrible and unexpected disasters have come upon us. The desolate ruin of our city and the great effusion of noble blood. Memorials, alas, of our everlasting grief. Proclaim all this to you. And it talks about like just how awful this is. Please come and save us from these, liberate us from these barbarians. For they are not so very numerous or warlike. And we've knocked down several of their towers and engines and burned them. But look, you better come help us, or they're going to come for you
Yes,
next.
yeah, I like that. Yeah, yeah. This is a
Yeah,
domino
they'll come for
theory.
you
The
next.
domino theory of the
Yeah,
Second Crusade.
and Rao says, exactly to your point, Kelly. He says, when our men learned of these things, their spirits were greatly encouraged to continue the attack. They were pumped. They were like, "This is fantastic. We're really excited." And now this part of the story always kind of cracks me up a little bit because, look, they say these guys tried to run this letter to this other guy, and we intercepted it. So like we got the letters, and we were all really pumped about it. He then immediately turns around, Rao does, and says, after a short time, the corpse of a man who had been drowned was found beneath our ships. And on an arm, a letter was tied. And this is what it said. Now, first of all, I just want to make sure everybody can picture that there. They found a man drowned underneath the hull of a ship, and he had a letter tied to his arm. Okay. Okay. That's a thing, apparently. And it is a response to the letters that they intercepted. Which I'm like, really? You just said you intercepted all the
Yeah,
letters.
yeah.
And this is a response to it that's found on a guy tied beneath. All right, okay. This is from the King of Evora to the men of Lisbon. Having long since entered into a truce with the king of the Portuguese, I cannot break faith and wage war upon him and his people. For the rest, take heed in good time. Buy safety with your money, lest that prove a cause of your hurt, which ought to be a cause of your well-being. Farewell. Give something worthwhile to this our messenger.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they did. He was food for fishes. Yeah.
So
So do you
I
accept
don't know what to make
do
about that.
you know, I mean, that is always the question. Were we cynical enough to think that these are all Raoul's faking them? I mean, we don't hear about this from the German writer of the letter. Now, his is much shorter. But what do you think?
I, I almost said it something smelled fishy. I almost just said that, and then I was like, that's in terrible taste. Don't
Yeah.
say that, Mike. Don't say that. And now I just said that I thought about saying, which is really just as bad as saying it. Yeah, look, we know these kind of exchanges
Yes,
happen,
absolutely.
right? Nothing about that is odd. Nothing about that is strange. This is, as Kelly said, this is exactly what you do. You send out couriers, you send out messengers, like, hey, we need help. There's a totally unrelated. Last of the Mohicans.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. Last Mohicans.
Such a great movie, so many ways. There's a few little howlers in it, but for the most part, terrific. And I love there's a scene where they're sending out couriers to try and get message that they're under siege and to get help. And there's of course our hero sniping this with a long rifle, or not even a rifle, because there's no rifle.
No.
he's sniping these guys from an insane distance so that the runner can get away. And that's a little hokey, but what is happening there is absolutely correct, right? You're a fast runner. Here you go. Here's the message. Run.
Yeah.
Run.
Or in this case,
get
row.
through.
Row.
Get going. And so he has to haul. And so this is something that happened. Yes, that is right. And you, as the besieger, want to prevent those messages from getting out. And so you've got pickets running around. You got people watching for this and trying to intercept anything. Yeah, of course. And people on the outside are trying to send messages in, right? So everything about that's right.
At the Siege of Neuss, again, just going off of the Siege of Neuss, 1474-75, there's a hollow cannonball that's fired into the city of Neuss from the German troops, saying, "We're here. We've come to relieve you." And you hope it didn't fall onto someone, and then look what I found! It's broken in half, and
this killed my uncle. Oh look!
Yeah, Monty Python. But try to get messages in and trying to get messages out, and of course you're going to say it. If you do capture a message, you're going to because they do it the same in Calais when the English fleet captures the messages going out, and they broadcast them very quickly to the troops because it's a huge morale booster. I'm not so cynical in thinking these weren't true.
And Evora is logical. Evora is up. I mean, that's where you're going to write to. Great, all that works.
And we'd be a little bit. I think we shouldn't be so incautious to think that this is the only messages that are going out too. The skiff of 4 or 5 Muslim guys that go row across to get down the play down Evora. They may have not even been going to Evora. They may have been going to Morocco. They may have been going to Granada.
Well, those were because it was addressed to Abu Muhammad, king of Evora.
Okay. Those were.
But I mean, you're absolutely right. It doesn't just because this skiff of guys got captured doesn't mean there weren't 5 skiffs that went out that night and the others got through. Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to say that there's no way this happened.
And that
my favorite bit of the whole thing is the guy being found under the hull of a ship, with the letter tied to his arm.
Well, maybe he tried to swim the river. I don't know. Tagus is pretty big, but might be the way to get in.
Big.
I get it.
Really
big.
And why was he swimming that close to?
Well, I mean,
I got question, is what I'm
he
saying.
could have
But
gotten trapped underneath the ship, not gone towards the ships, but have been drowned elsewhere and just floated under the ships.
got floated under,
Yeah,
got
and he
caught.
would have had
The
the letter in a
like I
pouch or something tied to his arm.
probably had a
Yeah.
tube, yeah, leather tube, and tied it off to his
Yeah.
arm because he didn't have
I mean,
pockets.
all of it's plausible. Let's put it this way:
You
all of it's
can get it
plausible
there,
and um, and
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 awesome.
awesome. And so if Raul is thinking this up on his own, this is
I don't think he
no.
is.
I mean,
I think this
he's
really
a
did
great
happen.
fiction writer.
Yeah,
Let's put it at that point. He's who's gonna if you're going to come up with, oh yeah, and then we got delivered the letter that was going back from Evora, and we caught that guy, and he was in a skiff. That's just repetition. Love the fact, yeah, no, we were fishing.
yeah.
Look what we pulled up on our lure.
So it's I got to be honest. There's also a contextual thing to this. Um, as we all know, the Queen died, here recently. God save the King. And here at the Citadel, we have a monument to the HMS Seraph, and it is, I think, the only shore installation in the United States of America that is allowed to fly the naval ensign, the Royal Navy's ensign. It's also on, I think, a cemetery and over the British Embassy, but of course those are kind of like not really American soil technically, whatever. But it's allowed to fly here, and so it immediately went to half mast, which is awesome.
I had no
I
idea.
was like, that's really cool that somebody, that the news hit and somebody ran out there and half masted that thing. I was like, go team, that's awesome. So that's really cool. But the HMS Seraph, among the many things that it did, this was the submarine that was a part of Operation Mincemeat, which is what do they call it, the man who never was.
Oh
Is
yeah,
that what
yeah,
they call the
yeah,
guy? Where they and then I think they used that in
yeah. No,
in a James Bond movie. I think
yeah,
they
they did
used where
that.
they sent out a body.
That was the man who
Um,
never was, with a letter tied to him saying that the D-Day was going to be launched
yeah.
against Ostend and the Belgian coastline. Yeah.
So yeah, there's like a kind of tradition of this or whatever. So it also is obviously contextual. I've just been thinking about that because of the Seraph Monument, and then I'm like, oh yeah, tied to his arm. Yeah, sure, yeah, just like Operation Mincemeat. Yeah, I've seen this movie before. Yeah.
Although Operation Mincemeat would have copied it, considering that this was Chronicle was written, in the 12th century. I mean, I could see though. You could see all these, you know, people in the War
Ah.
Office there in London saying, "Oh, I just read the Chronicle of the Siege of Lisbon, and you know what would be a good
Well,
idea."
it'd be a good idea. Well, of course, one of the kickers to that here, everybody came from medieval stuff, and we're going to totally different. One of the main people that was in Operation Mincemeat was Ian Fleming. That was
Of course,
yeah,
why not?
Lieutenant Commander Ian
Why
Fleming. Like,
not?
what did that? What an insane thing. So yeah, I think this probably did in fact happen. Yeah,
Yeah,
this did. And in that regard is really neat because it is speaking to this truth of siege warfare, as you said, that we know this thing is happening all the time. We do not usually get it talked about in the
no.
chronicles.
And I mean, if we're looking at the kind of stereotypical medieval siege, the quintessential medieval siege, the one that mixes in the artillery and the siege machines and the men and all the dissatisfaction, boredom of sitting outside the city. And there's no better place than looking at the Siege of Lisbon in this. It's just amazing. The point, and I think it's quite interesting too that the Lisbon letter, as we call it, the one that's written by the German crusader or probably cleric who's along.
Probably
Yeah,
cleric, yeah.
he's very interested in identifying things like, oh yeah, we've got a huge siege tower, and he measured it. It comes out to 83 foot tall, and it was built by Pisan engineers. So he's got details that he's obviously very interested in, and so whether you want to know about Pisan engineers, these are probably Pisan ships. So
Yeah.
they're men who build, who repair the ships, who carpenters who are now making siege towers. And I think that the characterization, especially of these two chroniclers, or and by that time I'm using a small c because both of them are simply writing letters, accounts.
Yeah.
The notion that they have different interests, the letters are so important to the Raoul, and then the siege machines are so important to the German cleric. I just think it's very fascinating to see it all coming together. Because we haven't told them who won yet.
Oh, go ahead.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, Crusaders do
Spoiler.
win. Eventually, they do win. After all of these things happen, they do win. And, I have to give some credit. We always ask the notion about, did the trebuchets breach the walls? I don't think they did.
Yeah.
These are not counterweight. They're traction trebuchets. They wouldn't have had a lot of ballistic force. They may have taken off the top of a wall. They certainly would have kept troops from the wall, and that's what you need when you move the siege engines in. And that seems to have been what took at least the city, because they were able to go. You can't move siege engines up a precipitous terrain like the Citadel, but
Like the Citadel. Yeah.
at least the first part there was taken by siege machines, and
Yeah.
and then always
That enable you to get over the wall,
it
basically.
did. It's always
Yeah.
curious that you kind of wonder what it would have been like to attack a wall in pre-modern times, going up ladder. That must have been scary as hell. But going in a siege machine kind of, at least you've got a little more protection and so forth. You got a little more, but it goes down. There's a lot more loss, and we do know that the militia inside Lisbon takes a lot of these machines out, and a lot of the mangonels out, and other stone throwers. So they're putting up a defense too.
Yeah. Well, I mean that supposedly intercepted letter. I mean, it says that they took out a tower and engines, which they have burned with force and arms bear witness. So they've been attacking those things and taking them out, and often using fire. And we know that from other accounts too, because we have manuals of warfare that talk about what you should try and do to prevent your siege tower from being set alight by the people who are inside, who are trying to set it alight, because they know this is it's things made of wood. Wood burns, and it's a really great way to knock this thing out and make it unusable. Right, you're not only knocking out the tower, but making the material from which it was constructed unusable. And the material, as Kelly just said, is like itself of value. And you knock out these men, knock out the machine, and knock out supplies. Like it's like that's a winner, winner, winner all the way around.
It's also very curious to see how this siege. This is one of the best described sieges when it comes to this type of military technology too. Israel talks about they're moving the siege tower closer and closer to the walls. I love the translation for this particular siege tower at the top. The modern translator has called it a penthouse, which kind of sounds a little bit luxurious. It's not. It's just a platform on top that's covered also. I mean, it looks like a little hut on top is what I think he's getting at. Penthouse
A
knows.
penthouse.
Yeah, up there is the where the Vanderbilts are staying.
Yeah, that's where the party's
But
at,
they're
man.
also got these wicker mantlets, and again, that's a modern translation. But if you've seen the depictions of siege lines and so forth, these are these wicker baskets that they're making, and they fill them with dirt, or they keep them. But they're essentially protections, earth and a little bit of wicker, and you can put up a good wall very quickly. But they seem to have made them light enough that the Crusaders are pushing them in front of them. So they're all going up at force towards the wall, and I wonder if that was trying to take some of the attacks away from the tower itself, because of how effective the Lisbon population had been against earlier towers. This is one of the ones that actually has is successful. But he describes it several layers of filled with soldiers, men with water to drop on if there's a combustible that hits the side of it. They're covered with generally with uh, rugs or reed or something that they've wet as well to keep away from fire. But so there's
Yep. Some
this
of
is
our manuals talk about using hide,
mhm, nice, yeah.
using hide against, and it's always been, yeah, as Kelly says, always been soaked in water, so that it's not just bare wood. That's what the movies will show or whatever, is these bare wood structures. And you think, man, if anybody's got a match, like, you got a problem. And yeah, no, they would be covered, and they knew the danger. They weren't stupid.
Well, yeah, and who
They knew what
knows?
they
I
were
mean,
doing.
this being the later one, this being the one that Raoul says actually is getting it does the job. But even then, it takes 36 hours for men to get over the wall, even though they can't get that tower burning. But you wonder if that point that they have gotten more cautious too. Maybe the first couple times
Yeah.
you just push these towards the walls, and that will easily go over. I mean, everybody who starts a siege is pretty cocky that they can undertake it quickly because it is such a time consumption, and these guys are
Yeah.
still on their way to the Holy Land
Yeah,
eventually.
this is just like
Yeah,
halftime, guys.
yeah,
We're,
that's it. For the halftime show for the Second Crusade.
yeah. I mean, so it's look, the Siege of Lisbon, in some ways, is non-dynamic in the sense that we don't have these, like, the Siege of Orleans, where we kind of have to track out, well, now they've kind of moved here, and now they've done this. I think with the Siege of Rhodes, both Sieges of Rhodes for that matter, have those kind of dynamic pieces. This is just sort of like, we're just going to slowly kind of like choke in, on the process. At least that's what we're getting from the
Well, and they're
sources.
doing the same thing
I
in
should
Siege of
caveat that.
Lisbon that they did at Rhodes. They did at Jericho back in the in the Bible times, and that is that they're undermining, and that takes time. Especially since Raoul has already described that some of these fortifications are built straight from rock. They go right out from the rock, and they start mining underneath these. That's going to take a little bit of time too. So it's an
For the
for
town
the town
walls.
walls,
This is
these
for the
town
town walls.
walls. Yeah,
You
you
can't
can't
you
don't
can't
think they're
undermine
doing that
the
with
citadel.
the Citadel. No, not at all. And I mean, in Belgrade 5021, Suleiman's able to mine under a corner, but
Yes,
he's got
different.
gunpowder. He can blow it
Yeah, he's
up
got
once he
gunpowder.
gets there.
He's got a little
A
something
little
extra.
something
A little
extra.
something extra.
These guys are just doing the regular mining. They're building the hole,
Yeah.
putting up green wood, covering it with pig's fat or something, then setting a light and running out, and hoping that they can bring down that part of the wall. But Ralph says that they're undermined. They're mining all over the place, but the townspeople are pretty adept at hearing where these mines are and are countermining them. And then
Yeah.
those become fairly ineffective after that. So it's taking time. That's one of the things that we always forget. You want sieges to fall fairly quickly, and roads, the two siege roads, are about this length. But others, Calais lasts a year, or Neuss lasts a year and does not fall. So siege warfare is not it's not easy. It's not, but it is pretty decisive, at least for that city. If it falls, it's yours.
Yeah. Yeah. We should definitely talk about Siege of Calais at some
Yeah, we
point.
got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
That's because we did
And the
Crecy, and
siege of
obviously that's
Tournai. There's some
immediately.
really interesting ones that we ignore because they're surrounded by Battle of Crecy, Battle of
Yeah.
Slough, these sort of things. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, and yeah, the battles are cool stuff, but sieges are a major part of
Yeah,
this whole thing.
yeah. I mean, and more conflict decided by sieges than anything else in the pre-modern world, especially in the Middle Ages. That's simply it.
Yeah, especially when, as you said, you think about decisiveness. A battle. I mean, obviously it's decisive for the men who die on that field, but as far as kind of what's won or lost, in many respects, if not most respects, is kind of
Yeah.
ephemeral.
I mean, no matter what happens, if you take the city, it's yours. They may take it back eventually, but it's still yours for a while. And it does mean that it has to have a siege waged against it in order to take it again. So
Yeah.
that happens throughout history. Whereas a battle, I mean, even the Battle of Hastings, what did it decide? William still has to conquer the island, and that
Yeah, although he's taken out
yeah, it's taking out the leadership.
he's taken out all leadership. Of such things is yeah, a bit of a counterexample. But Crecy is a good example in the sense that this huge, enormous victory. But it's not like Edward even won that ground. Like he had to leave. He had to leave. But Calais, just a few weeks later when he starts that, and then a year on when he has done it, yeah, that fundamentally changes
Yeah,
history.
certainly changes the war,
It's
100 Years' War.
yeah,
And this, you could almost say at the Siege of Lisbon, I mean, Lisbon does change hands, but that doesn't mean the whole coastline falls. That doesn't mean the whole
yeah.
Portugal is taken by Alfonso Henrique at that point. It's, it is, but it is a major and a very prosperous major undertaking. Or
And it does make a huge connection between the sort of Anglo-Portuguese dynamic. This is really fundamental for
And I think
that.
you're right. I mean, we don't. Some have suggested that it also is very dynamic as Portuguese Flemish, because it's not going to
Yeah,
be too long before the next Count of Flanders in the 12th century, in the early 12th century, or the middle 12th century is a king of or one of the king's sons of Portugal. So
yeah.
there's huge connections with the people who are actually there to take Lisbon and help Alfonso Henrique out. It isn't like, okay, see you later, have fun storming the Middle East. We're going to go back and forget.
Yeah, a bunch of them
Yeah.
stay.
Oh
A
yeah.
bunch of the
Yeah. Yeah.
people
I've been in
they'll stay.
Lisbon. Good wine. I'd say I have to go on and you wonder how much they've heard. By October of 1147, the crusade is not going well in the Holy Land.
Yeah,
So maybe they've heard a little word about this. But yeah,
yeah. Let's just stay here. Let's
but
just stay.
17 weeks. That's what the siege is. The I think this multiple attacks. Mines may have been the most decisive of the things, but the use of artillery, the use of siege towers was something important, and just the persistence the Crusaders have, even if they have to be buoyed up by a few letters, made up or not. And gee,
Did you say buoyed
yeah,
up? Did you say
yeah.
buoyed
Well,
up? And
you had the
one
fish.
of
You
those
had the
was,
fish story before, so man, I've
I
had good fish in
man.
Lisbon.
What do you wish we had from the Siege of Lisbon? Like if there was a document or something material, what do you wish that we had of
Well,
this
I
thing?
wish we had something from people inside. I mean, we've got the letters. Those are certainly
Yeah,
important. We're not cynical enough to say that they didn't exist, but we don't have an account. Some of the most interesting accounts, for example, the siege of Tournai, the siege of Calais, are from the people inside, and they talk
yeah,
about the depredations. They talk about having to face that. This one doesn't seem so hard to get through. I mean, it is over in 17 weeks, so there doesn't appear to be a lot of death inside, and there is some massacring of the Muslims, but not a lot, not like we're used to in the Middle East by this time. But I'd love to have an account, and not even wouldn't even have to be an account from a Muslim or a Jew. I'd just like to have an account from somebody inside. How desperate are they? And how much do
yeah,
they think the wall is going to help them? How much do they think it's going to help them be in the Citadel? Um,
yeah,
that's one. Yeah.
yeah. No, it would be, yeah, it gotta be good. It'd be so good to have that. Um, I wish we had a
Yeah,
map
that would be nice, wouldn't it?
of like I mean we have bits and pieces
Yeah.
of it from archaeological record, but we don't have the entirety of the thing, and it would be so. I, as people know, I'm just fascinated by that kind of stuff. Like what can I map. How can I map this? How can I kind of construct this? And what does that then inform? I wish I had
And
that.
I mean, it's
I won't.
curious because there is a lot of archaeology being done. On the last time I was there, I visited the Roman theater that has been uncovered, and some amazing things. And you think, well, geez, how did this survive? The fire and what's the 17th century earthquake and fire destroys a lot of Lisbon. And so that maybe it's just that they're locked into Portuguese archaeological accounts. We haven't uncovered them. I don't think that the archaeologists have really revealed a lot about where the medieval city extended to. How far, did it go? I mean, we've got these accounts that seem to suggest that there's a seawall that
Yeah.
is right, or a river wall in this case with the Tagus that is right protecting them, and that there's actually attacks from the ships to it. So that I probably need to do a little more research, but medieval um, scholars, right, and medieval historians in the Iberian Peninsula are just great. There is so much good work being done in Iberia right now, both Portugal and in Spain. I'm just astounded at the younger scholars that are coming along. So maybe we won't have to wait so long for that sort of stuff.
Then and yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the Iberian Peninsula is just doing
Mm.
great.
Yeah, good support. Good support
Uh,
from EU. Good support from the government. Um, it's very important. Absolutely important.
and they're just good folk. I mean, they're doing
Good
good.
food.
That earthquake, they got good food. And the earthquake that Kelly referred to there, I think it's 1755. I think is the Lisbon earthquake, which is just offshore, and was a big one and very problematic.
Was curious because I remember going to Lisbon thinking there wouldn't be anything medieval except for the castle on top, and there is actually, so it does go more into the modern, early modern city, and not up to the area that they now call the Muslim area, and some of the others that have medieval houses and churches and so forth. So and that's where the Roman theater was too, so it didn't get damaged. But yeah, curious. Not a great, I mean, there's not a lot of studies on Lisbon, Siege of Lisbon either. There's these accounts, and we get nice little accounts. I wrote one for a popular book too. Um, and
I got to get over
yeah,
there.
yeah, definitely.
Do they have good burgers?
No,
I like
no,
a
no,
good burger.
no. A
Damn.
lot of good fish, by the way. Too much
Yeah, that's
cod,
not. That's not.
but yeah, good stuff. But and then get over there and see the castle. A lot of it has changed. The castle that is there now is not. The castle was besieged and eventually surrendered. That one surrenders. The walls on the outside is taken. Citadel surrenders, which is interesting because I don't know how the Crusaders would have gone up there, but I'm sure the foodstuffs were pretty poor. And it appears that they were cisterns that they were using for water. So if during the summer, they could have run dry very quickly. Um, but the castle's rebuilt by the Portuguese kings after that, over a
Yeah,
number of years.
but yeah, I mean, looking at it, I mean, all I can do is look at satellite recon. Man, that is a good spot.
It
That's
is, yeah. I mean, it is.
like
It follows all the laws of fortification. It was an excellent fortification. You still see the bits were built by the Muslim population beforehand, Muslim garrison. But it is amazing just to look down at the city from there. Uh, it's
yeah, it's a beast of a
it's a
sight.
beast of a sight. And again, it'd be really interesting to see if we could get uh, a group of scholars together and talk about the Siege of Lisbon, and not just the two sources. What else do we know? What do we know about the populations?
Yeah,
What do we know about some of the other things?
yeah,
So maybe that's something we can
yeah,
shout out to anybody who wants to do that, especially our
yeah. Let us know.
Iberian listeners. We've just given you the great scholarship moniker, but
Give us and give us like we'll do a case
yeah,
book on
yeah,
the
do a case book on
Siege
it.
of Lisbon.
We'll come over. We'll come over and talk at your conference.
What? As if they care to hear from us,
Oh,
man. Like,
yeah,
come on.
yeah. Well, Portuguese,
Uh,
they had me to speak in a couple times, so yeah,
they have had you to speak in. They like
yeah, I know,
you.
I know.
You're likable. You're likable. It's fair. It's fair.
Good.
Well,
Yeah,
they're getting ready to turn the lights out
They
on
are.
us. I hope y'all enjoyed this. I feel like we were less formal. I don't know.
We
I don't know if
are a
we're
little
both
bit.
punchy or something.
You've been out
Oh,
lunch with the dean. So
yeah, I just got back from lunch with the dean. Good
yeah,
times.
yeah.
Good times.
I,
So look, I hope y'all enjoyed this. Please do join us next time when we'll be talking about the Battle of Najera, which is, I mean, this is Black Prince. This is good
yeah.
stuff.
Iberian Peninsula, totally different.
Iberian Peninsula, but yeah, very different thing entirely. So please do join us for that. And look, if you got questions about stuff, Q&A is the episode after that, I think.
Yeah, number 20.
Yeah,
It's,
number 20. So give us questions that
yeah,
we'll
we got a
answer.
couple. We've got a couple so far, but
Yeah, and we have some holdovers from that we didn't answer before. I know we got to get to.
I noticed the port has come. You better do it.
The port has come.
Last toast.
The port has come. And I don't think the microphone picked that up, but I just had cannon fire outside my window because it's Friday afternoon at the Citadel. So
somebody heard
cannons
Siege
are
of
going
Lisbon
off.
and said, "Oh, this is how they do it."
Yeah, let's just fire off some cannons for Professor Livingston. It's like literally right outside
No,
my window.
I didn't hear it, so it didn't come through.
Cool.
Those are trebuchets.
Well,
those are trebuchets.
Those are trebuchets. There we go. As ever, a reminder, this podcast is sponsored by medievalist.net. So the best way to support us, other than buying our individual books, of course, is to join their Patreon at patreon.com/medievalists. That's also the best place to drop us one of those questions. If you've got one, jump on there and drop it on us. So hope you enjoyed it, everybody. Cheers.
Cheers.